this is my daily driver. It's a 2016 Jeep Cherokee, and the other day when I was backing it out of the garage, I bumped into a little brick wall that I have that covers up my garbage, and I've done some superficial damage. Now this is not a dent, it's just a scrape in the paint, so we're not going to do any actual body work. But what I'm going to cover in the video today is how to handle small little paint scratches. It's scratched through the paint into the, yeah, it's all the way through the paint. I think this is actually not metal. This is metal up here. I think this is a plastic. This is a plastic here. So, what we're going to do is we're going to patch this up, do a little light sanding, and then apply some paint on it. And I'm just going to demonstrate how to do that, so that if you ever do a little minor bump like that, it's not that much of a big deal. You can see how easy it is to repair it. So let's get started with this. All right, so the first thing you're going to want to do is we're going to clean it up. Anytime you're working with anything where eventually you're going to deal with abrasives, you need to make sure that when you pick the grade of abrasives that you're going to use, you're not introducing some other foreign material that will create scratches and rings and whatnot. So first thing we want to start with is cleaning it up. And so what I got here is just a bucket of water, but it's not just your typical bucket of water, because this bucket of water also has a little separator in it, so that when you are sponging it down, it'll allow you to help to separate the particles. They will go to the bottom, and if you put your sponge in there, it won't go back into those particles. It separates it. So just a regular old sponge. You don't have to get any kind of technical sponge. And we're going to clean up the area all the way around it. We don't want anything to be introduced in there. And obviously we're not just going to fix right in the area. We're going to pick a larger area so we can feather it in. So let's get cleaning this up real nice. Getting all the dirt, any kind of debris out of there. Eventually we're going to get on this too, so I'm going to go ahead and clean that up nice. Get down into all those grooves and make sure there's no dirt or pieces from the brick that scratched it, any of the foreign material that caused the scratch. Sometimes it'll get deposited in the paint. And when you start to break it up, then it'll do more scratches. All right. Okay, I think we have what we need out of that. I'm going to leave this bucket of water later because eventually we're going to wet sand, and I'm going to show you how to do that. That'll make it so that when we wet sand it, the clear coat from here will match the shine seamlessly. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do on this is we're going to actually rough sand it. What we're going to try to do is when you feel your hands across this, you can feel that some of the paint, when it was scratched, created high spots. Not too worried about the low spots, but we want to knock everything down so at the very least it's at the same level. And then we're going to spray a sandable filler in there, and then we're going to sand it again to make it flat, and then we'll put a color coat and a clear coat over the top of that. So that's the plan. So let's go ahead and get a sanding block and knock down any of the high spots on here. All right, we're going to start out with some 800 grit, wet or dry. I'm going to do it dry first. Again, we're just knocking off any of the high spots. I'm not putting a lot of weight on it. I'm just trying to knock down the high spots so that we can fill it in later. And then once we get that filler in there, then we'll start doing our wet sanding and detail. This right here is just more of the cleanup. You can hear it and you can feel it when you're done to know whether you've got enough on there. When it's still rough, you can feel and hear the coarseness of the sandpaper underneath. And then you can feel on the top here whether or not you have some high spots. And the reason why we're using a sanding block instead of just using your hand is that you want to create a plane, that you're taking off just the plane of the material, right? If you did it with your finger, you'd be creating little grooves, and it would create waves and waffles that you don't want. Doing it with a sanding block gives you a plane that you can work with that will just take off the topical areas that you're looking for. You can see it's already changing the color pretty quickly here. It's a big gouge right there. I'll have to get that. It'll be tricky. You might be able to see the sheen is getting a little dull, and that's okay, because we're going to apply the clear coat over the top of that. All right, so when you're sanding, a lot of times the material will get clogged up with what it is that you're sanding. So you just have to make sure that you clean that off, or you can actually, rotate the sanded area that you're using into a cleaner area of the material. I'm not using a lot of pressure. Kind of a bump right there. I don't know what that is. Let's take that down. There we go. All right, I'm liking the way that's feeling. All right, let's move on to the next step here. What we're going to do is, there's a lot of powder. You can see the powder in there. We want to get that out. So again, cleanliness is everything. You want to clean all that out. You don't want to spray on top of that. All right, I'm going to do a little bit off camera. I'm going to do a little cleanup over here. And then we're going to tape this off so we can put our first coat of sandable filler in there. All right, so there you go. We got it all taped up and ready to go. I got some sandable primer here. We're just going to fill those spots, and then we're going to come back and we're going to sand it back down. We'll repeat this step as many times as necessary until we get what feels like a nice smooth surface back again. All right, so here goes the first coat. So unlike gloss paints, sandable primer is sandable. So it's made to collect material. Also, it's less likely to drip, and even if it did, you're going to sand it off. But with that said, you have to kind of look at the sheen from different light sources so that you can see if you've got enough in there. Otherwise, you're going to be back and forth reapplying and adding more. So I'm going to go ahead and stack this up a little bit. I'm looking at it from this side right here so I can see where the blemishes are. You can't kind of see them anymore because they kind of go away after the color goes away. But I'm looking for those, and I'm just trying to fill them in with this primer. All right, we'll let that dry for a while and then we'll see what it comes up with. All right, so we're dry to touch. It's not tacky at all. We're going to go ahead and start wet sanding this. And the idea behind wet sand is that you're going to start taking off material, and instead of loading up the sandpaper with that material, because it's in a medium of water, it'll wash down, and so there'll be a puddle of white sanding material on the ground down here once it's done. So you can see there's overspray all the way up to here. But once we get done, we're gonna clean this whole area up and we're gonna buff it. All right, so let's get into wet sanding. First, we're going to wet the surface, make sure it's just damp. Make sure that the medium is wet. Again, working from a plane, not working directly with our hands. And all we're trying to do is bring down that sanding that we made, or the filler from the sandable primer. I'm trying to bring that down to the same surface. Again, not using a lot of pressure. One of the things you'll notice when you're wet sanding is the material and the water create kind of a suction, and so it kind of helps to keep it nice and level. You don't have to worry about flat edges or working up on the edge. Once you get it on there, it kind of sticks, and it will keep it going. The other thing is, what you'll notice on here, there's a curve right here, but not here. So you want to work in the plane that you're working on, and then like over here on this side, there's a curve kind of right here. So you want to work in this direction on that area. That way you won't get any high spots. So you just kind of work with the curves and make very subtle changes. This is an 800 that we're using. It's clogging up a little bit, but you can see how it the material comes off. It's kind of cloudy. I'm going to keep this moving. Get a clean section over here. Kind of work all that overspray off, and you'll start to feel it with your hand as it gets softer. Alright, I'm going to continue and then we'll break back in. Alright, so coming at it from context. From here you can't see it. And if you didn't know it was in there, you would never see it. If we come in a little closer, I try to get some glare on it with this lens right here. You can see it's nice and smooth. We have some sanding lines, but I'm okay with that. They're all well within tolerance. I think we have all the grooves all filled up, and everything looks pretty smooth. The only little blemish that we have left right here on the edge. I am really thinking that I can, well, I'm going to put another coat of sanding filler in there, and we'll hit this side one more time, just this one little area. It's going to put another 2 more hours on the project because it takes a while for that stuff to dry, but I don't want to have these, I don't know if you can see some bumps in there, bit of a divot right there. So we'll take care of those. One more spray and then we'll sand it down. I will have to readjust my my tape job, and you totally have to expect that, you know, water on paper. We have some plastic up here, but regardless, the water in the tape is going to always be a problem. So just be prepared just to keep having to change the tape. It's not a big deal. All right, so there I can call what I think is completion on the body work. The scratches have been minimized. Any of the little dents and divots are all removed. I've sanded all the sandable primer. So now what I'm going to do is, you see we've taped off this entire panel. It's a small panel, but what the idea here is, so instead of feathering the paint, you never know what you're going to get with paint matching. Could be that it's the right color, but there's sun bleaching involved. It's an old car. I mean, it's not brand new. So the idea here is we're going to paint this entire panel with the Duplicolor paint that we found for this particular vehicle. And what's going to happen is, even if it's a little bit off, you won't really be able to tell, because there will be a union where it goes into the next piece. Or in this case, it'll be a black section here or a black section there. You'll never know. If you were to try to feather it, it would always look a little off. Now, if this was a large panel like the hood or a fender, what you would end up doing is you would tape it at a shadow mark. See, like you have like a little crease in the metal right here? You would tape it along that, and that way, even if you had the right color and everything was all perfect, the sheen would be a little off, or there would be something that would just, that looks a little off. If you pick these natural dividing lines in the vehicle, then you can match your paint without having to repaint the entire vehicle. So in this case, we have a panel that's, you know, relatively a small size, and we can control that. So in order to paint this whole panel, or get this whole panel ready for paint, we need to make this surface ready to accept paint. There's a couple of ways to do it. You can do it chemically, just to get any kind of wax or whatnot off there. In my case, what we're going to do is we're just going to lightly rough up the paint with some 800 grit sandpaper. 800 grit is the probably about the max that you need to go. You can go higher grits, but I only use the higher grit sandpaper after I've painted and I'm trying to polish the clear coat. When you're going to get ready for spray, the new paint needs a little bit of texture to hang on to, and the paint itself is going to add more polish. So for you to sand more than 800 grit is just a waste of time. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and get this ready. I'm going to lightly sand this and get it ready for paint, and then we're going to give it a spray down. I'm going to go back over all of my tape lines and make sure everything is not been damaged by the wet sanding process, and then we'll give it a good look. And that is why you test your spray on another surface before you go to your finished coat. This can is defective. It starts spraying all over the place. We're going to take that back and get a new one. All right, let's give this another try. we're going to be using Duplicolor's Perfect Match touch-up paint. The trick with this is you need to go to Duplicolor's website to match the color for your Jeep. It's not really that intuitive, but if you click on the Fix a Scratch, that's where you start. It'll allow you to put your car's make, model, and color in there, and it will tell you what color to purchase. And so this is how we match this one up. As we did with the previous one, always do a spray off of your finished material just to check the spray pattern. These have an adjustable nozzle. You can spray vertically or horizontally. You just turn this little thing. But I'm just going to go with the regular vertical spray. And so anyway, just check it to make sure that that it sprays well before you go on to your finished surface, and then everything will be golden. All right, so I'm going to go shake this up and we'll get this on. All right, so all things considered, that went pretty smooth. Color matches nicely. It's a good coverage. There's where the scratch is completely gone, so that's excellent. Not really 100% pleased with the product here. The Duplicolor has been really great product for me in the past, but I think that they changed their method a little bit with the way the spray head works, and it is a messy mess. It just kept filling up that pool right there. I kept having to dump it out into a rag, because if you let that fill up, then it starts throwing droplets. So kind of a miss there, Duplicolor. Get your game together. I'm still going to buy it. It's a good product. It just didn't perform as I expected. This goofy technology that you added with the variable spray head is variably spraying everywhere. Anyway, so the next trick here is, it's not done. The next trick is we need to make the shine of the car. Now the color matches, everything's fine there. We want to make the shine match. So we're going to go ahead and wait for this to dry its prescribed amount of time, and then we're going to sand it with some 2000 grit sandpaper, and that will get any kind of eggshell or overspray that's on there down without removing any of the paint. It'll just remove the rough surfaces, and that'll give us a nice flat, nice polished surface that we can then take a buffer to, and we will polish it to a nice shine. One other step that you could do if you wanted to, if this was a two-step paint, you could also put some clear coat on there. I don't think I'm going to do that on this case. I'll leave that in case, worst case scenario, I need to add some extra shine to it. But the next step here is just to let it dry, and then we're going to sand it down with some really very, very fine sandpaper to remove any eggshell or overspray, and then we'll buff it with the buffer. So we'll catch back in once we get to that point. All right, so there we have, there's the color match. It's pretty close. I think what we need to do now is match the shine. Now this looks a little dull because I've already sanded this with the 2000 grit. It doesn't have any overspray or eggshell on it, but we're going to give it the once over with our Ryobi buffer here and some Meguiar's Mirror Glaze medium cut cleaner. This stuff's really great. You see how it has a little arrow? It tells you how much it's going to cut. There's a lot of different grades of this. This one here will get it down to a pretty good clean. We have one more level of the Meguiar's. There's a couple of them, but I have one more that will get us to that absolute mirror glaze. So let's go ahead and get the first coat of buffing on this, and then we'll check in and see if we're getting closer. Alright, so we're getting close. You see it's got a nice sheen to it. It's matching up really well. In that last one I used a pretty coarse abrasive, and I used a like a terry cloth buffer. In this last phase, I'm going to a wool. It's not real wool, but it's, you know, full wool. And my Ultra Pro Finish Polish. This stuff, if you remember on the other one, it had a number 7. This one here goes to 3. This one cuts a lot less, but it polishes a lot more, and it will get it like glass. This Meguiar's is the good stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and record this, and then we'll get to the end of it. Alright, so I'm going to call that project done. Painted all the way out on this whole panel. It's nice and shiny, no eggshell, no overspray. Buffer did its job. You can see, I should say, can't see at all where the original damage was. It's completely gone. So there you go. Quick little patch on a quarter panel. This is a rubber material or plastic, but same kind of thing for steel if you had, but it might be if some deal with some dents, but the rubber bounces back nice, so that works out well. Maybe later on I'll do another video on how to deal with this kind of damage, but for right now I'm going to call this one done. If you have any questions at all on how to do this, or if you have any comments on other experiences that you've had, please share them in the comments. Everybody would like to hear, you know, whatever information that you have to share. Please consider subscribing, liking, and commenting on the videos. I really appreciate it. Have a good day.